Wait, you're telling me that the mall was sold?
Yep, the Pickering Town Centre has been sold.
No way, for how much?
Rumor has it for over $200 million.
Wow.
Yeah, it's gonna be quite something. Hey folks, Fahad here, back with some monumental news about our beloved city of Pickering. You heard it right in that call. The emblematic gathering place that is the Pickering Town Centre has been sold. And rumor has it, it was for a jaw-dropping sum of over $200 million. But that, as they say, is just the tip of the iceberg. If you remember my previous video on the city centre, we dove deep into the old city centre vision and what that would have meant for the city of Pickering. We left off then with the city pausing their plans and some uncertainty on what would come next. Today, we're exploring part 2, diving into the new reality that is slowly but surely taking shape here in the heart of Pickering. In addition to the PTC's new ownership, we also have a decision from Pickering City Council on what they plan to do with their portion of the city centre lands, after the initial plans that were co-developed with OPB Realty and subsequently pushed for years fell through due to significant costing issues. No matter where you stand and what your thoughts are on these matters, there are going to be things here that you like and things here that you don't like. What's certain is that the news around the city centre that we're going to look at in this video gives us the most concrete look yet at what the future of the Pickering City Centre and downtown Pickering holds. I'm Fahad Rehman, your local guide to all things Pickering, and I'm here to dive deep with you into the issues that matter the most, in pursuit of truth and happier communities. If you haven't already, go ahead and click that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any future content. Without further ado, let's begin, starting with a quick overview of the city centre in 3, 2, 1. The Pickering City Centre is an officially designated neighbourhood in the heart of Pickering that contains the Pickering Town Centre, some office buildings, the public library, as well as other commercial and residential space. It spans an area with rough boundaries of Valley Farm Road to the east, Liverpool Road to the west, Bailey Street to the south, and Highway 2 to the north. But if you're an area resident, you don't need me to tell you that. It's almost intuitive that this area here is our city centre. Between the mall and the library complex, these are perhaps the only year-round gathering places that we have in the city, which is why the future of this area is so consequential. This will be the centerpiece of all the development we are seeing. It will be the gathering place of gathering places. And while the history of this area goes back to the 70s with Sheridan Mall and the 2 drive-in theaters, the future, it appears, will be starkly different. Alright, so let's get into the big news. The sale of our beloved Pickering Town Centre. The mall has long been owned by OPB, which is the Ontario Pension Board. They were the ones who worked on the old city centre plan in collaboration with the city. However, as things got more serious and costs became more clear, it appears the plans they formed previously would be too costly for both the city of Pickering and, evidently, OPB itself. So what was the next step? A massive sale of the entire Pickering Town Centre property. As of today, OPB has secured a conditional sale on the lands to its new custodian, CentreCourt Developments, who are rumored to have paid over $200 million for the property. CentreCourt Developments is a Toronto-based developer that is known for building, well, condos. Per their website, they focus on the development of high-rise residential communities located near major amenities, rapid transit networks, and employment areas across the GTA. Their portfolio consists of several completed, proposed, and currently under construction condo towers, including 101 Peter Street in Toronto, 181 Dundas Street, 85 Wood Street, 19 Western Battery, and 3 towers in the VMC in Vaughan in a development called Transit City. In total, they've built 19 buildings spanning 10,000 units and $5.6 billion of development value. They're no strangers to high-rise development, but once we get into what's planned here in Pickering, it will become very clear that this will be their largest project to date, by a long shot. While this deal is still conditional, CentreCourt Developments has begun putting up signage, constructing a sales office, and has been advertising their upcoming 55-acre development on the east side of the Pickering Town Centre. Their plans for our Pickering City Centre are as ambitious as you'd expect. A dynamic, high-density urban core spread across 9 blocks of development, containing 9 mixed-use towers, 10 if you count a 9-story building, which I believe is planned to be a hotel. The heights on the towers have increased over the last year, with heights being 9 stories on the one I mentioned, 40 stories on another, plus 2 additional 45-story towers, 4 50-story towers, and 2 55-story towers, which will make these the tallest towers in future Pickering. That is just nuts to picture, like right here, in an empty parking lot. The plan is to have a total of 5,099 residential units built, bringing in approximately 9,200 new residents to the city centre. This is a massive increase from the 2011 city center population of 5,100. However, it's important to note that even today, we have about half of the population that the official plan wanted to have in the city center by 2016. These were targets made from 1996 onward, so while it's indeed a massive increase, the idea of adding a lot of density here is certainly not new. In fact, we're considerably under where we were supposed to be at this point. The plans for the PTC site are certainly not all residential either. They plan to have almost 37,000 square feet of new commercial and retail space at the ground level of these towers. And despite not initially wanting to, they've also agreed to provide a minimum of 129,000 square feet of office space in Phase 1 of the PTC development, which is approximately the size of the existing 10-story MPAC building to the south, and it will likely be spread out across the towers. This was a push from city staff to try to make this a true mixed-use development, not just residential condos, which is something I really commend them for. Finally, there's a large parkland designation as a part of this development, where they would convey approximately 10% of the site to the city as public use parkland, which the city intends to use partially as a water feature / skating rink and space for outdoor events. More on this later. Earlier this year, with these changes made and a few other conditions given, the city gave the green light to this development in the form of draft plan and zoning approval for all of the items I just mentioned. All the towers, all the density, and all the new retail and office space. In other words, yeah, this is happening. It's absolutely happening. While the purchase deal with CentreCourt still remains conditional, with a now approved plan and CentreCourt already putting marketing out there, the chances of a back out are pretty slim. And even if CentreCourt did back out, with zoning approvals from the city now in place, it would only be a matter of time before someone else would come in and pick up the project from OPB. So that's one half of the deal now done, an entirely private project with no involvement from the city other than the parkland. And on this side of Glenana, no public facilities, as was previously proposed. But of course, the other half of the city center proposal has to do with the city-owned lands on the east side of Glenana along the Esplanade South. So let's take a look now at what the city of Pickering themselves has in mind, including an all-new plan for how they will bring us new, state-of-the-art public use facilities to accompany all this growth and development. The city of Pickering owns these lands here along the Esplanade South. It's currently a parking lot and is used for large events such as Ribfest in the summertime. Previous city center vision involved doing a land swap with the owners of the PTC, giving them this entire south block for residential development in exchange for building city facilities, namely a new library, performing arts center, and a seniors and youth center on the PTC lands. Since pulling out of the deal due to expected costs of the project doubling over time, the city had to make a decision on what the next best thing would be. They ran a survey asking residents what their preferred outcome would be, and while 23% said that we should just accept the higher costs and move forward with the original plan, over half of survey respondents suggested modifying the scope of the project to better fit the budget. So the city hired KPMG to help provide costed options on how to proceed. They came up with 4 possible pathways. Option A would be keeping the legacy concept, performing arts center on PTC lands, 50-story rental tower, seniors and youth center, and an amazing public square. It's no secret that I was a huge fan of this proposal. I raved about it in my last city center video, but this option would have the downside of costing nearly $240 million, and most of it up front, and requiring a deal with the PTC. Option B was a revised version of the original plan with a smaller public square, no towers on top of the seniors and youth center, and a connected library and seniors and youth center. Think of it as option A, skimmed down. Option C was called the multiplex option, which would involve selling the south block to developers for funding, demolishing the existing library space, and basically putting a new library, seniors and youth center, and the required administrative expansion all under one roof. This option made me want to puke, so I'm going to stop talking about it. But here is where they first introduced the concept of not building on the PTC lands and instead using the parkland designation from the builder as a way to add public space to the PTC site. This brings us to the final pathway, option D, which ended up being the city's option of choice for the future of the city center. In option D, named Facilities on the Park, the architects got a little creative. Instead of swapping lands with the PTC, they would also use a parkland designation to build a water feature / skating rink on the PTC site in a public space inspired by Nathan Phillips Square in Toronto. Then, over on the east side of Glenana, the entire roadway that is the Esplanade South would be moved over to the south, immediately abutting the existing development beside it. This move would then create one massive park spanning the entire existing city facilities and Esplanade Park, along with this new addition here, which is where they would build the new library and the seniors and youth center, and then they would sell the air rights above to a developer in order to help pay for the project. So basically, you would have all these new facilities along with 2 new 45-story towers right here in the South Block. But it would be all one big park due to the road being moved to the south. The Performing Arts Centre would be moved to Valley Farm Road and the Esplanade North, and they would be building lots of below-grade as well as above-grade parking for all the uses. Here's a rendering of what this would all look like. Basically, as the name suggests, with all the new city facilities centered around Esplanade Park. Now, I'll give them credit where it's due. This is a smart solution to the problem. And having all these facilities around Esplanade Park will be a nice way to create a real city center feel. I do see it. I imagine the completed area will have somewhat of a Queen's Park vibe, with a large central park adjacent to the seat of government. But I don't actually know of any cities who have a park like this, plus all sorts of city facilities surrounding it. If you know of an example like this, be sure to drop it in the comments, we can talk about it. Overall though, it's not bad. It hits a lot of the necessary elements, retains a focus on nature in Esplanade Park, and we still do get to maximize use of the parkland designation at PTC without giving up any city lands as was previously proposed. But the question remains, now that they've decided to move forward with this option, how does this match up to the legacy plan or option A, which myself and many others were a big fan of? We'll wrap up by talking about some of the most stark differences next, so you can know how this plan stacks up against the old one. Now, I'm going to start with the change that is nearest and dearest to my heart, and that is around the public square. The old plan had a large, highly accessible public square that I believe would have transformed public life in Pickering. A public square is a gathering place. It's a place of celebration. It's a place to just hang out. It's a flexible space where all are welcome. While the old plan really did in a way center around the public square, the new facilities on the park vision puts the public square basically in between the two halves of the existing civic building, in this area right here. Is it public and is it a square? Yeah, sort of, I guess. But it's really just hardscaped area in between two buildings with a small water feature planned to be added. I don't know the best way to describe it, but I do know compared to the last one, it's a little underwhelming, and it doesn't offer us any sort of new public gathering space. The other big change has to do with the Performing Arts Centre. The old plan wanted to have the Performing Arts Centre right along Glenana on the PTC lands, abutting the new public square and right across from the new library. This would allow for activations for people walking by, getting to see what's going on at the Performing Arts Centre and talking about it, maybe asking about it, or maybe the opportunity to hang out in the public square after a performance or event. It was front and center, and I thought that was a great thing for the arts and culture here at Pickering. Under the new plan, the Performing Arts Centre is slated to be located along Valley Farm Road, in the parking lot of the rec complex. It's still a large 40,000 square foot facility, and that's still infinitely more performance space than we have right now, but this area of Valley Farm Road is kind of sleepy. It doesn't elicit the same feelings of excitement that this type of performance venue would elicit had it been quite literally front and center. However, to wrap up with some good, this new option does give residents additional green space, which I know is valued, and from a practical point of view, it becomes a lot easier financially because the city can phase in the development over multiple years rather than having to outlay hundreds of millions of dollars in a short span. It's important to note that in this revised game plan, the Performing Arts Centre isn't commenced until at least 2030 versus a near immediate start in the earlier options. The net cost differences between this plan and the original aren't very pronounced, with cost estimates coming out to over $250 million over the life of the project for this version. However, as I mentioned, the phasing of the construction will allow this to be much more digestible for the city as they work to make this all a reality. That, my friends, is a story of transformation unfolding here in the heart of Pickering. These two all-important decisions, the first involving what will be done on the PTC lands, and the second being what the city will do on the east side of Glenana, will undeniably shape the future of our city centre, and therefore will determine what the very heart and soul of our future city will be like. To recap, OPB/CentreCourt Developments is now approved to bring 10 towers and over 5,000 residential units to the Pickering Town Centre, including significant amounts of retail and office space. And the City of Pickering has opted to enact Option D, the facilities on the park vision, to create the next generation of public facilities for all residents to enjoy. Imagine a bustling downtown Pickering, a vibrant mix of residential, commercial, and office spaces. Cafes, retail stores, and all sorts of things to do. Next door, you'll have a cluster of city facilities, an improved public park, and finally, a central skating rink with a Pickering sign. This transformation can evoke mixed feelings. Some may find it exhilarating, and others overwhelming. But no matter what you feel, be sure to drop your thoughts in the comments below, and let's navigate the future of our city together. Please go ahead and subscribe to my channel so I can keep bringing you these exclusive deep dives into the future of the places we call home. Thank you very much for watching. This is Fahad Rehman, signing off until I see you next. Hey guys, thanks again for watching all the way to the end. A few important things I'd like to share for those who are interested. The first is that the City of Pickering is officially seeking feedback from the public on their facilities on the park vision for the city center. They've opened a public consultation survey available on their website until August 31st. So if you'd like to share your thoughts on the city's portion of what we went over in this video, head on over to their website at letstalkpickering.ca/citycenter to share your feedback. Once again, that's letstalkpickering.ca/citycenter, and it's open until August 31st, 2023. The second is that CentreCourt Developments is gearing up to launch sales on the PTC condos very, very soon, and I will of course have all the information and early access to units. If you want to stay up to date on this project launch and all the details, head on over to the link in the description or scan the QR code on your screen now to join my email list today. It's totally free and we promise not to spam you, just the important details and first dibs on all future Pickering condo launches. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you all in the next video.